The untouchable females # story outline **** genre ****HF*** humanity f ***** yeah science fiction **** theme cultural understanding, courage, and human adaptability word count *30 zeros 0 words 6 sections of approximately 5 zeros 0 words each ## section 1 First Contact Protocol, the year 2003, 187, marked humanity's first encounter with the Valkyrie species on the remote mining station Kepler 4, 142b. The Valkyrie were a fascinating species, tall, elegant beings with crystalline skin that shifted colors based on their emotional state. Their society was built around strict hierarchical structures, with their females holding positions of absolute power and reverence. Commander Jake Martinez led the human diplomatic team aboard the station. The initial meetings went smoothly until the humans noticed something peculiar. Every time a Valkyrie female entered the room, all other species present would immediately retreat to the far corners, keeping their distance as if the females carried some invisible barrier around them. The Valkyrie males explained through translators that their females possessed a unique biological trait. They emitted powerful pheromones that could induce overwhelming fear and submission in most sentient species. This evolutionary adaptation had made them natural leaders, but also isolated them from meaningful contact with other races. Dr. Lisa Chen, the team's xenobiologist, found this fascinating from a scientific perspective. She observed that the Valkyrie females seemed lonely despite their positions of power. They would often stand alone during gatherings, their crystalline skin shifting to darker hues that the translators identified as sadness or melancholy. During one particularly tense negotiation about mining rights, a Valkyrie female named Vara entered the chamber. The usual exodus began. Centaurians scurried away. The insectoid Threx clicked nervously and backed toward the exits, and even the typically stoic Corthani delegation moved to maintain significant distance. Jake noticed something different about his human team's reaction. While they felt a slight unease, it was nothing compared to the terror exhibited by other species. Dr. Chen seemed barely affected at all, maintaining her composure and even making direct eye contact with Vera. This observation would prove to be the turning point in human-Valkyrie relations. The humans realized they possessed a unique resistance to the Valkyrie pheromones, making them the first species capable of comfortable interaction with Valkyrie females. The revelation sparked immediate interest from both sides. The Valkyrie had never encountered a species that could withstand their females' natural defenses, while humanity saw an opportunity to establish a unique diplomatic relationship. ## Section 2 The pheromone resistance. Dr. Lisa Chen threw herself into studying the phenomenon. Working with Valkyrie scientists, she discovered that human neurology had evolved differently from other known species. The human brain's limbic system processed the Valkyrie pheromones as mild stress signals, rather than overwhelming fear responses. The research revealed that millions of years of human evolution dealing with various predators, environmental challenges, and social conflicts had created a neurochemical resilience that other species lacked. Humans had developed multiple backup systems for fear processing, meaning the Valkyrie pheromones could only trigger one pathway while others remained functional. This discovery fascinated the Valkyrie scientific community. Their females had lived in isolation for generations, unable to form close relationships with anyone outside their own species. The idea that humans could potentially bridge this gap was revolutionary. Vara, the Valkyrie female from the initial meeting, volunteered to participate in the research. She spent hours in controlled environments with human volunteers, monitoring their physiological responses. The results were consistent. Humans showed elevated stress markers, but remained capable of normal cognitive function and social interaction. The breakthrough came when Dr. Chen suggested a cultural exchange program. If humans could interact normally with Valkyrie females, perhaps they could serve as intermediaries, helping to facilitate better understanding between the Valkyrie and other species. The proposal faced significant resistance from various alien governments. The Zentorian Council argued that it was dangerous to expose humans to prolonged pheromone exposure. The Threx Collective worried about the political implications of one species having exclusive access to Valkyrie leadership. Despite the opposition, the human government approved a limited pilot program. A small team of human diplomats and scientists would work directly with Valkyrie females to establish communication protocols and cultural understanding. Jake volunteered to lead this groundbreaking initiative. His military background and diplomatic experience made him an ideal candidate. More importantly, his initial reaction to Vara had been one of curiosity rather than fear, suggesting he might be particularly suited for this role. The program began with careful, monitored interactions. Human participants wore biometric sensors while spending time with Valkyrie females in various settings. The data consistently showed that while humans experienced stress, they adapted quickly and could maintain normal social behaviors. This adaptation period proved crucial for both species. The humans learned to read the subtle color shifts in Valkyrie crystalline skin, understanding their emotional states and communication patterns. The Valkyrie females, for their part, began to experience something they had never known: genuine companionship with beings outside their own species. Section 3. Building Trust. The cultural exchange program expanded beyond simple scientific observation. Jake and his team began working directly with Valkyrie females on various projects, from mining operations to interstellar trade negotiations. This collaboration revealed the depth of Valkyrie female intelligence and leadership capabilities. Vara emerged as the primary liaison between the two species. Her initial skepticism gave way to genuine friendship with the human team. She had spent decades in leadership positions, but had never experienced the casual conversations, shared meals, and collaborative problem-solving that came naturally to human social interaction. The breakthrough moment came during a crisis on the mining station. A massive solar flare threatened to overwhelm the station's shields, potentially killing everyone aboard. The emergency required split-second coordination between multiple species, but the traditional command structure broke down when other species representatives couldn't maintain proximity to Valkyrie females who held ultimate authority. Jake stepped in as an intermediary. He stood between Vara and the other species representatives, relaying commands and coordinating responses. His presence somehow dampened the pheromone effects enough that others could function, though they still maintained distance. The crisis was resolved successfully, but the incident highlighted the practical value of human-Valkyrie cooperation. Other species began to recognize that humans could serve as vital bridges in situations requiring direct coordination with Valkyrie leadership. This success led to formal diplomatic protocols. Humans were designated as official intermediaries in all major interspecies negotiations involving the Valkyrie. The role came with significant responsibilities and privileges, establishing humanity as a key player in galactic politics. Jake found himself at the center of this new dynamic. His ability to work closely with Valkyrie females without fear or discomfort made him invaluable in negotiations. More importantly, his growing friendship with Vara provided insights into Valkyrie culture that no other species had ever obtained. The relationship between Jake and Vara evolved beyond professional cooperation. They spent hours discussing their respective cultures, sharing stories about their homeworlds, and exploring philosophical questions about leadership, isolation, and the nature of power. Vara revealed that Valkyrie females had developed their pheromone abilities as a survival mechanism millions of years ago. Their planet had been dominated by aggressive predators, and the ability to inspire fear had been crucial for survival. However, as their civilization advanced, this trait had become both blessing and curse. The isolation imposed by their biology had shaped Valkyrie society in profound ways. Females held power but were lonely. They made decisions affecting billions but had few genuine relationships. The arrival of humans represented the first opportunity in generations for Valkyrie females to experience normal social interaction. This revelation deepened Jake's understanding of the responsibility his species had accepted. Humans weren't just serving as diplomatic intermediaries. They were helping to heal a fundamental wound in Valkyrie society. Section 4. The deepening bond. As months passed, the relationship between humans and Valkyrie females deepened from professional cooperation to genuine friendship. Jake found himself spending most of his time with Vara, not just for diplomatic purposes, but because he genuinely enjoyed her company. The other members of the human team formed similar bonds with different Valkyrie females. Dr. Chen worked closely with Kira, a brilliant Valkyrie scientist who had been studying the pheromone phenomenon from their perspective. Lieutenant Tom Rodriguez, the team's security officer, developed a friendship with Zara, a Valkyrie military commander who had been isolated from joint operations due to her effect on other species. These relationships revealed the complexity of Valkyrie society. The females weren't just leaders, they were individuals with hopes, fears, dreams, and frustrations. Their isolation had created a culture of self-reliance and emotional control, but underneath lay the same desires for connection and understanding that characterized most sentient species. Jake began to understand that Vara's position as a leader came with tremendous loneliness. She made decisions affecting millions of lives, but had no one to share her doubts or fears with. Her conversations with Jake became increasingly personal, as she opened up about the burden of leadership and the isolation it imposed. The growing friendship faced challenges from multiple directions. Some human officials worried about the political implications of such close relationships with alien leaders. Certain Valkyrie males expressed concern about their females forming attachments to outsiders. Other species in the galactic community viewed the human Valkyrie bond with suspicion and jealousy. Despite these pressures, the relationships continued to deepen. Jake found himself caring deeply about Vara's well-being, while she began to rely on him for emotional support in ways that surprised them both. Their friendship challenged preconceptions about interspecies relationships and the nature of leadership itself. The turning point came during a major diplomatic conference on the neutral world of Proxima Station. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to negotiate new trade agreements and territorial boundaries. The Valkyrie delegation included several females, whose presence immediately created tension in the gathering. Traditional protocol called for the Valkyrie females to meet separately with other delegations, using intermediaries to avoid direct contact. However, Jake proposed a different approach. He suggested that humans could serve as constant intermediaries, allowing for direct participation in group discussions. The proposal was controversial, but ultimately approved. Jake and his team positioned themselves strategically throughout the conference hall, creating buffer zones that allowed other species to participate, while the Valkyrie females remained directly involved in discussions. The conference was a diplomatic triumph, but it also revealed the personal cost of Jake's role. He spent days managing the complex dynamics between species, translating not just language but cultural concepts and emotional states. The stress was enormous, but his friendship with Vara provided motivation to continue. During a break in the negotiations, Vara approached Jake privately. Her crystalline skin showed patterns he had learned to recognize as deep gratitude mixed with concern. She expressed worry about the burden he was carrying and the toll it was taking on his health and well-being. This conversation marked a shift in their relationship. Vara began to see Jake not just as a useful intermediary, but as someone she cared about deeply. Similarly, Jake realized that his feelings for Vara had evolved beyond professional respect, or even friendship, into something more complex and profound. Section 5. Unexpected complications. The growing emotional bond between Jake and Vara created complications neither had anticipated. Their relationship had begun as a diplomatic necessity, but had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history, a deep emotional connection between species that had been considered incompatible. The first signs of trouble came from within their own delegations. Some human officials began questioning Jake's objectivity, worried that his personal feelings might compromise his judgment in negotiations. Similarly, certain Valkyrie males expressed concern about their leader's growing attachment to an alien. Dr. Chen observed the developing situation with scientific fascination and personal concern. Her research had focused on the biological aspects of human-Valkyrie interaction, but she hadn't considered the emotional implications. The data showed that prolonged exposure to Valkyrie pheromones was causing subtle changes in human brain chemistry, potentially affecting emotional responses and decision-making. The situation became more complex when other Valkyrie females began forming similar bonds with their human contacts. Kira and Dr. Chen developed a close working relationship that bordered on romantic, while Zura and Lieutenant Rodriguez found themselves drawn together by shared experiences as military officers. These relationships challenged fundamental assumptions about interspecies interaction. The galactic community had long accepted that meaningful relationships between different species were impossible due to biological and cultural barriers. The human-Valkyrie bonds suggested otherwise, raising questions about the nature of consciousness, emotion, and connection. The crisis came to a head during a routine diplomatic mission to the Valkyrie homeworld. Jake accompanied Vara to participate in a traditional leadership ceremony, but their arrival sparked controversy within Valkyrie society. Conservative factions argued that allowing an alien such close access to their most sacred rituals was a betrayal of their cultural heritage. The opposition was led by Commander Thane, a prominent Valkyrie male who had long questioned the wisdom of the human alliance. He argued that the humans were weakening Valkyrie society by undermining the natural order that had served them for millennia. The debate raged for days, with Vara defending the human alliance and Jake's presence specifically. She argued that the isolation imposed by their biology had stagnated their society, and that the humans offered an opportunity for growth and change. Jake found himself in an impossible position. His presence was simultaneously the solution to Valkyrie isolation and the cause of internal conflict. He began to question whether his relationship with Vara was truly beneficial, or if it was simply another form of the disruption that seemed to follow human contact with alien species. The situation reached a breaking point when Thane challenged the legitimacy of Vara's leadership, arguing that her judgment had been compromised by her emotional attachment to Jake. The accusation struck at the heart of Valkyrie society's power structure and threatened to destabilize their entire government. Vara faced a choice between her duties as a leader and her personal feelings. The decision would determine not only her own fate but the future of human-Valkyrie relations and possibly the stability of the entire galactic community. In the midst of this crisis, Jake made a discovery that would change everything. While reviewing historical records, he found evidence that the Valkyrie pheromone trait was not entirely natural. Ancient texts suggested that it had been artificially enhanced through genetic manipulation, possibly as a form of biological warfare against their enemies. This revelation implied that the isolation experienced by Valkyrie females was not an inevitable consequence of evolution, but potentially a reversible condition. If true, it meant that the entire structure of Valkyrie society was based on an artificial limitation that could be overcome. The discovery offered hope, but also raised new questions. If the pheromone effect could be modified or eliminated, what would that mean for Valkyrie society? Would removing their females' natural authority destabilize their entire civilization? Jake realized that his relationship with Vera had evolved beyond personal feelings into something that could reshape the future of multiple species. The responsibility was overwhelming, but the potential for positive change was too significant to ignore. Section 6. The revelation about the artificial nature of the Valkyrie pheromone trait changed everything. Jake shared his discovery with Vara, who was initially skeptical but agreed to investigate further. Working together, they uncovered a conspiracy that had shaped Valkyrie society for thousands of years. The ancient records revealed that the Valkyrie had once been a more egalitarian society, with both males and females sharing leadership roles. However, during a period of interplanetary warfare, a faction of scientists had secretly enhanced the females' pheromone production to create super soldiers capable of controlling enemy forces. The modification had been successful in military terms, but it had also created unintended social consequences. The enhanced females became isolated from normal social interaction, leading to the rigid hierarchy that had defined Valkyrie society ever since. Commander Thane's opposition to the Human Alliance suddenly made sense. He represented a faction that had benefited from the current system and feared the changes that human contact might bring. His challenge to Vara's leadership was not just political, but an attempt to preserve the artificial structure that had given meaning to his life. Vara faced a monumental decision. She could use this information to justify her relationship with Jake and the Human Alliance, but doing so would require revealing the deception that had shaped her entire civilization. The truth would free her people from artificial limitations, but might also destroy the foundations of their society. Jake urged her to share the discovery with the Valkyrie leadership, arguing that truth was always preferable to comfortable lies. However, he also recognized that the decision had to be hers alone. His role as an outsider limited his ability to fully understand the implications for Valkyrie society. The debate within the Valkyrie leadership was intense and prolonged. Some argued for maintaining the status quo, claiming that their society was stable and successful despite its artificial origins. Others supported revealing the truth, believing that their people deserved to know their real history. Vera ultimately decided to share the discovery publicly. In a historic address to the Valkyrie people, she revealed the artificial nature of their females' pheromone abilities and the conspiracy that had shaped their society for millennia. The revelation created chaos initially, with some Valkyrie refusing to believe the evidence and others demanding immediate action to reverse the genetic modifications. However, Vara's leadership during this crisis demonstrated her true abilities as a leader, separate from any artificial biological enhancements. The scientific community, both Valkyrie and human, began working on treatments to reduce or eliminate the enhanced pheromone production. Dr. Chen led the research effort, working closely with Kira and other Valkyrie scientists to develop safe and effective interventions. The first successful treatments were administered to volunteer Valkyrie females, including Vara herself. The results were remarkable. The treated females retained their natural leadership abilities while becoming capable of normal social interaction with other species. Jake watched nervously as Vara underwent the treatment, unsure how it might affect their relationship. Would she still care for him once the artificial biological factors were removed? Would their bond survive the elimination of the very trait that had brought them together? The answer came in the form of Vara's reaction when she saw him after the treatment. Her crystalline skin showed patterns of pure joy and relief as she approached him without the usual concerns about pheromone effects. Their first embrace as equals, unencumbered by biological barriers, confirmed that their relationship had been based on genuine connection rather than artificial influences. The changes rippled throughout galactic society. The Valkyrie began participating more fully in interstellar affairs, with their females taking direct roles in diplomacy and trade negotiations. Other species, no longer intimidated by pheromone effects, began developing direct relationships with Valkyrie leaders. Jake found his role evolving from intermediary to partner. He continued working with Vara, but now as an equal rather than a buffer between her and the rest of the galaxy. Their relationship deepened into something that transcended species boundaries, becoming a symbol of the potential for genuine understanding between different forms of life. The Human-HFY alliance became a model for other interspecies relationships. The success of their bond encouraged other species to look beyond surface differences and artificial barriers, leading to new forms of cooperation and understanding throughout the galaxy. Years later, as Jake and Vara worked together on establishing the first truly integrated interspecies council, they reflected on the journey that had brought them together. What had begun as a diplomatic necessity had become a love story that changed the fate of civilizations. The galaxy was a different place now, more open, more connected, and more hopeful. The artificial barriers that had separated species for millennia were being challenged and overcome through the simple recognition that consciousness and emotion were universal experiences that transcended biological differences. Jake realized that humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy was not their technology or their military might, but their willingness to see past surface differences and connect with other forms of life. The courage to approach the unapproachable had opened doors that had been sealed for generations. The story of the untouchable females had become a tale of liberation, love, and the power of understanding to transform entire civilizations. It proved that no barrier was insurmountable when beings were willing to look beyond their fears and reach out to one another with open hearts and minds. In the end, the greatest discovery was not the artificial nature of the Valkyrie pheromones or the techniques to overcome them, but the simple truth that connection and understanding were possible between any forms of life willing to make the effort to truly see each other. The galaxy would never be the same, and Jake and Vara had played their part in making it a better place for all sentient beings.